At the family dinner, Karina was sweetly peeling shrimp for me, acting all gentle in front of both our parents. Her parents were grinning proudly, but mine didn't look too happy. I was staring at this plate full of shrimp, kinda zoned out, when Maria, sitting across from me, chuckled. "Brother-in-law, aren't you allergic to shrimp?" Karina's hands froze mid-peel. Her parents' smiles got a little stuck. The table went silent until Karina's phone rang. She picked it up, frowning. "Karina, I'm really scared. The system's back. It wants to erase me. Can you come see me one last time?" Karina moved like she was gonna leave. I looked up at her, speaking coolly. "Karina, I've also been bonded to the system. If you leave today, I'll get punished too. You still going?" Karina left anyway. Between her arranged marriage husband and the person she couldn't help but love, she picked the latter. Another awkward silence descended over the table. Karina's mom tried to smooth things over. "Howard, don't take it to heart with Karina. Everyone's like this. What you can't have always seems the best. Just let her spend a few days with that man. She'll eventually realize who's truly right for her." My mom banged the table, uncharacteristically furious for a gentle college professor. "What are you saying? Are you suggesting my son just put up with Karina having another man?" Karina's mom forced a smile. "That's not what I meant. We're all aware, in our circle, having a couple of lovers on the side isn't unusual. Besides, you know who Karina is. She can weigh her choices." She gave me a look as if to say, "Be the bigger person and calm your mom down." I pretended not to notice. My dad stayed silent but glanced meaningfully between me and Maria as she served me food, and I took it without a fuss. "Howard." Karina's mom cleared her throat, backing me into a corner where I couldn't avoid looking at her. "What do you think we should do about Karina and that man?" I almost laughed. This was just like back then. Oliver had transferred to our school in sophomore year. What started as a duo with Karina and me growing up slowly turned into a trio. He was a kid with less money but super optimistic, always coming right behind us grade-wise. Karina quickly grew fond of him. She was always saying, "Oliver is amazing. He went from the very bottom to the top 3 in our grade. If he tries a bit harder, he might even take Howard's top spot." Her eyes would light up talking about Oliver. Her prediction sorta came true, but not because of effort. It was because he had something called the system. I could hear him chatting with it. He got test answers by earning points from missions. I thought maybe I was just stressed and imagining things, but it happened again and again. He'd sleep through class, fool around afterward, yet still hold first in the grade, while I was up until 3 or 4 a.m. every night, driven to exhaustion just trying to reach first. I tried telling Karina about my theory on Oliver and his system. She'd laugh under the moonlight, telling me, "Howard, Oliver being top is just him being smart. Don't go spreading false stuff." Her words stung and I felt like a fool. She realized she might have been harsh and reassured me, "Don't overthink it. You're just stressed. Being first isn't everything, Howard." She was always so good to me, and I naively thought we'd just follow that normal path of engagement, marriage, and happily ever after. That was until after graduation when she confessed to Oliver with 99 roses, dazzling fireworks, and a love letter. The whole school buzzed with surprise. They seemed perfect together, and it hit me so hard that I got sick, knocked out for 3 days. When I woke up, my mom told me Karina ran off with Oliver, giving up her family inheritance for him. It was ridiculous. Destined for greatness, falling for love's illusion. But then came reality, and Oliver went to Karina's mom asking for money. Her mom came to me, asking what should be done. Back then, I was young, refusing to lose to some system or let Karina be taken, so I stepped in, meeting Oliver as her fiancé. He took the money and vanished. I overheard him with the system, revealing he never loved Karina, only that her love rating had hit the max and he was ready to be free. I thought that was the end of their story, but Oliver came back, telling Karina the system forced him to leave, and she didn't believe him until he started coughing up blood in front of her. That freaked her out. Karina and I had signed a prenup. If she cheated, she'd leave with nothing. Divorce would follow. I said this calmly as Maria paused mid-bite, and even Karina's dad was taken aback. Oliver returned a month ago, and he and Karina were seen everywhere. Since marrying me, there was never any scandal. She wasn't very discreet in staying faithful. Whenever I noticed, I put a stop to it immediately. But this time I let it run its course. Gossip spread that our marriage was on the rocks. Howard, do you know what you're saying? Karina's mom snapped back to reality, questioning me. I chuckled, though it didn't reach my eyes. I could accept that Karina once loved Oliver. But what I can't accept is my wife still having someone else in her heart today. So Karina is out. My mom warned me to consider what would happen if that day ever came. I was so sure our childhood bond would outweigh Karina and Oliver's 2 short years together. I was wrong. Karina, wild yet following rules, had her only rebellious act by leaving her family for Oliver. Oliver was different for her. Howard, do you really think you can just marry and divorce as you please? Where do you leave my family's face? Karina's mom chided coldly when I wouldn't budge. Her dad frowned at me, saying, Howard, you need to think this through. Divorce is serious and not just up to you. My mom fired back, Howard does what he wants, it's not up to your threats. Even if Howard didn't want a divorce, it'd happen. Back then, Karina promised she'd never betray my Howard. And look where we are now? Yeah, where are we indeed? Karina let me down even when I gave her a choice. She came to me willing to fulfill our vows. Karina's mom tried to argue, but my dad finalized it, making the divorce inevitable. My dad comes from a long line of businessmen, our family solid, and my mom's side is even more prestigious. Karina, just a rich second generation, can't publicly fight our family, so she had to agree for now. Maria came with me back to the villa I shared with Karina. Just as I was about to step inside, she stopped me, eyes filled with a deep affection. Brother, were you serious about what you said last time? Over dinner, half-jokingly, I mentioned I too had a system and had failed a mission. Oliver's mission was to earn Karina's affection. Mine was the same. After Oliver left, I discovered the system. It told me I'm the hero of this world, and Karina the destined heroine. We'd endure all sorts of trials and eventually find happiness. I thought I could win Karina over, assuming my protagonist glow would help. But 5 years on, my progress is stuck at 80%. Today's the last day of the task. The system lets me choose a new partner, and my target is Maria, Karina's sister, an illegitimate child. Odd and obsessive, but she loves me intensely. It started with the first candy I gave her. When everyone else sneered at her, although I kept a distance, I made special birthday gifts for her personally each year. For me, who treats everyone alike, she became my moon. She sees me as her savior, her only love. I asked her if she'd become my wife if given a chance. Before she could answer, Karina came for me, and I missed her response. I meant it, Maria, I told her. Maria's emotions soared, a smile she couldn't hide anymore. She tried to hug me, but a male voice interrupted us. Isn't that Howard and Maria? Waiting for Karina? From afar, Oliver, in a suit, tenderly holding Karina's arm, his face pale under the gentle moonlight, eyes twinkling and red-rimmed, as though he'd been through a storm. A bandage still on his wrist, likely just recovered from illness. Karina looked my way, her frown barely relaxing at the sight of me. Then she sharply said, Didn't you say you'd be punished by the system if I left? You're doing just fine. Howard, I didn't expect you to invent such nonsense just to fight over Oliver. I glanced at Karina, then Oliver. I laughed. I said back then Oliver had a system, he denied it. Now he claims he's controlled by it, yet he believes it. But dismissed mine. How can his heart be so biased? Oliver coyly tugged at Karina's sleeve. Karina, don't be like that. What if Howard's not lying? The system is tricky. Karina sneered at me, you say you have a system. Then he copies you. From transferring schools to today. How much has he mimicked you? Your suits, piano playing, now this? Both Oliver and I froze, while Maria snickered beside us. Karina kept listing things I copied from Oliver, forgetting he was a poor kid with a system. My suit wearing is from my dad's influence. I've played piano since a kid. So, who learned from whom? I was curious if Karina truly loved Oliver. Karina, you say all this because you still love Oliver regardless, right? I asked. She confirmed, just as passionately as when she first loved Oliver. But after being with you so long, I won't divorce you. I softly interrupted her. As you wish, I'm stepping down. Howard and Maria left. Karina stood there, a bit dazed, turning to Oliver. What did Howard just say? Oliver hesitated for 2 seconds, carefully gauging Karina's expression. Howard said he wants a divorce. Divorce? Karina was stunned for about 2 seconds. Then she laughed. Another game of playing hard to get. If he really wanted to leave me, he wouldn't have waited until today. Even saying that, she couldn't shake off the unease growing inside her. She and Howard had grown up together, and despite her past wanderings in this relationship, she knew they were meant to be together. She'd even been willing to rebel for Oliver. It wasn't that she loved Oliver so much, but she wanted to test Howard's feelings for her. Oliver was special, but compared to Howard, he didn't matter. In the end, her gamble paid off. Howard loved her, so no matter what happened with Oliver, he wouldn't leave. She was his only choice, his true love. She knew about Howard paying off Oliver, so afterward, she proposed to Howard. Howard wasn't one to compromise for love, but he was willing to fall to the earth for her. She could have worshipped him, wanted to cherish him like he was her everything. To show her commitment and love, she suggested a prenup. Howard was moved to tears. It hurt her to see him like that. After 5 years of being a perfect couple, she worked tirelessly to give Howard a better life, climbing higher and higher, but grew further away from him. Their relationship silently changed. When things got to a breaking point, Oliver returned. She thought about using the same trick, but something seemed different this time. Karina's mom called, and Karina answered with a frown. The tone on the other end was angry. Karina, get your mess with Oliver sorted out. Howard's not going to be so easy to fool now. Her frown deepened until her mom added, Howard mentioned divorce in public. Her grip on the phone loosened. Oliver, standing next to her, smirked a little, his eyes gleaming with satisfaction. This time he came back for Karina, aiming for her husband's place. Over 5 years, he'd squandered the money Howard gave him, living wildly, having lots of flings. But none of those people compared to Karina. Everyone knew how good she was to him back then. Now, he was just here to reclaim what was originally his. The system? Long gone. Oliver looked at Karina. Karina, do you think Howard misunderstood us? That's why? It's my fault, I shouldn't have come back. Karina hung up, irritated, and said coolly, It's not about you. I've indulged him too much. Threatening me with divorce, he's got some nerve. But he forgets. It's him who can't leave me, not the other way around. Oliver, feigning a sob, agreed, Howard's only doing this because he loves you too much. That soothed Karina a bit. Howard was only threatening her because he loved her so much. This had happened many times over the past 5 years, always ending inconclusively. She knew Howard too well, but she forgot. No one waits forever. No one loves blindly forever. Maria took me to her secret place. There were more photos now, including some of me sleeping at home, which was a bit much. Maria noticed my gaze and smiled, hugging me from behind. Miss you too much. If I can't be with you, the least you can do is let me look from afar. Her voice had that youthful innocence. Maria's 3 years younger, took her mom's last name. I stayed silent for a moment before saying, I'm definitely divorcing Karina. But with you, Maria, nothing's certain. At that, Maria's smile froze, and she hugged me tighter, burying her face into my neck. Being a love child, in a family like mine, legitimacy is everything. I can accept Maria, but my family won't. I'll keep trying, she said. I chuckled. Trying? Effort doesn't count for much. Like me and Oliver back then, no matter how hard I tried, it was pointless. Some things are just unchangeable. Trust me, Maria said, you don't need to come to me. I'll come to you, no matter how thorny the path. She was earnest, even the usually silent system chimed in, this I can agree with. I laughed again. I didn't leave Maria's house that night. Instead, I stayed and sunk into her world, seeing the lash marks on her and the collar around her neck. For the first time, I felt pleasure. Her warm hands grabbed mine, putting a gold chain around my wrist. Her eyes were fiercely passionate, indulgent. She whispered sweet nothings, saying she loved only me. I smiled without saying a word, kissing her once more. Maria's ambitions were big. Within just 3 days, her overseas company made a strong comeback and swallowed up a few smaller businesses cheaply. Karina was overwhelmed with work. I hadn't heard back on the divorce papers I sent. She texted, but I ignored it. Same old messages, Howard. Can you stop? I'm really busy. I laughed at the news on social media. Busy? Busy paving the way for the man she loves. Oliver wants to jump into showbiz, and they've been spotted plenty together. Some sharp-eyed reporters dug into their school days, making a huge deal. They got a trending topic, I stand high, yet bow my head for you, praising Karina and Oliver's love story. Some even pointed fingers at me now, saying I broke up this perfect couple, calling me the evil third wheel. My group's image took a hit, stocks were shaky, but her company? Because of this, their stocks shot up. Need my help? Maria showed up at my office. Brought desserts and health drinks I'm not too fond of, left them on the coffee table. I glanced at them and closed my laptop. The trending topic? I bought it myself. Here's the deal. I hired the journalist too. Do you think I need help? Those who betray me, they pay. I want to see her fall from grace, get stuck in the mud. I smiled casually, and Maria joined with her own smile, flashing her cute tiger teeth. Then she came over, sat me down, and gently took my hand. Her slender fingers twisted open the thermos, poured the medicine into a cup, and handed it to me. I stopped smiling. I don't want to drink it. Good medicine tastes bitter and you've got stomach issues. You need to take care, Maria coaxed, pressing the cup to my lips. I pursed my lips, refusing. She sighed with a smile, put the cup back on the table, and undid the top button of her shirt. When I saw the silver chain, my previously composed face quickly showed a blush. My cheeks burned. Maria paused, guided my hand under her clothing and teased. If you drink it, you can do whatever you want with me later. In the end, I drank the medicine. Ate the cake too in my own way. Pretty sweet. I didn't expect to see Karina again at an auction. She's never been interested in collecting things. After our 5 years of marriage, she showered me with gifts like clockwork. Luxuries, haute couture, all picked by her assistants. None fitting my taste. They piled up in my closet, untouched. I hinted many times about what I liked, but Karina always made excuses about work. Howard, haven't I given you enough? What more do you want? You have what others have, even what they don't. Why are you still not satisfied? I'm busy. If you need anything, talk to my assistant. He'll handle it. 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, eventually I lost interest. I thought about divorcing, ending it all, but couldn't let go of over a decade of feelings. I love Karina, even if the system says we're just fictional characters. We have a set path. I love her not because it's true but because our Creator wanted us to love. The system said, don't make it hard on yourself. But I know what's scripted and what's real. I can tell the difference. Oliver's taken on a new look. Karina walked the red carpet with him, her gaze fixed on me and the Maria beside me. She's never liked Maria, just considers her background noise. No matter how close Maria and I got, Karina just dismissed it. For one reason, my family wouldn't allow me with someone like Maria. A disgrace, they'd say. Howard, aren't you afraid your parents would get mad for bringing Maria? Karina sneered as she approached. I shrugged, keeping my arm wrapped around Maria's. Karina, who I choose as a date isn't your concern. Whether my parents get mad or not is not your business either. Karina's face darkened instantly. Howard, do you have to talk to me like that? Don't forget, we're not divorced yet. Maria finally spoke, chuckling. Karina, is divorce really that hard? Don't worry. I'll find the best lawyer to help you and my brother-in-law part ways. After all, there's plenty of evidence of your affairs. Maria, Karina hissed through clenched teeth, starting to speak, but Oliver stopped her, calming her. Karina, don't get upset. There are lots of reporters here. Don't cause unnecessary trouble, he said, acting considerate. Indeed, all eyes were on us, but security kept them at bay. Karina swallowed her anger, took a few steps, then returned, anger replaced by a gentle smile. Not too loud, but loud enough. Honey, if you like anything tonight, just bid on it. I'll pay. Just 2 sentences and sneaky reporters snapped away. I was left confused. Karina's eyes filled with affection. I couldn't figure out her game. 2 intense gazes burned into my back. One Karina's, the other Oliver's. Maria sat silently next to me. Meanwhile, online chatter exploded. Everyone speculating what went wrong between Karina and me. Some wrote essays. Karina's just mad at Howard, making him jealous by being close to Oliver. They're just friends, no boundaries crossed. Recently, people who swear by romance insisted Karina only ever bent for Howard. Accompanied by a wedding photo. Our wedding was a grand affair, famous, trending for nearly a week then. They said, true love only grows in wealth. Now they say Karina loves me deeply, using such jealousy tricks. Who bought this trending topic? No clue, but it cleared up Karina and Oliver's relationship, that's for sure. When the last item came up, Maria nudged me. That's what you want. I nodded, turned off my screen, put away my phone. The highlight, a vintage painting. My grandma's birthday's coming up. She loves collecting art. I planned to buy it for her, but as soon as I bid, Karina, who hadn't bid all night, suddenly did. I raised the price and she followed suit. I frowned, looking at Karina, determined, lips slightly curved. She seemed in good spirits. Oliver grinned at me. Howard, you like the painting too? If you really want it? I turned my gaze, made a tiny lantern gesture, wiping the grin off Oliver's face. And Karina's. When I want something, I get it on my own. After wrapping up, as I got the painting, Karina caught up. She grabbed my arm. Howard, what are you doing? Do you really want to make this a big mess? If word gets out about what just happened, people will say our relationship is over. Do you believe that? Suddenly, I couldn't hold back my laughter. Haven't rumors of our breakup already spread? Then my gaze fell on Oliver behind her. His eyes were filled with resentment. I knew he couldn't accept it. He hoped to start over, only to realize Karina wasn't the same anymore. The Karina from back then would have gone rogue for him. But now, even if Karina might still like him, she only sees him as a plaything, a lover, never a husband. Karina seemed to want to explain, but Maria was already between us, smiling, though her smile didn't reach her eyes. Her gaze was a bit sinister. Karina, mind your own business. Let me remind you, be sure to sign the divorce papers and send them over tomorrow morning, or else. She didn't finish her sentence, but it sent a chill down anyone's spine. I glanced at Maria, who quickly dropped her sinister look and said ingratiatingly, brother-in-law, I'll go home with you. This was the second time. Karina watched Howard and Maria leave together. She was a bit dazed. Since when did Maria get so close to Howard? Over the years, Maria and Howard's family had work interactions, and Karina knew about it. It was normal for them to be close. She had never considered Maria a threat, just a bastard child who couldn't make any waves. She allowed Maria to get close to Howard because there was no way Howard's family would ever favor a bastard child. But just now, an uneasy feeling crept into her heart. Even though Maria and Howard hadn't crossed any lines, they seemed to have an unspoken understanding, more so than she and Howard. She began to realize something had changed. Oliver called Karina several times, but she didn't respond until he choked out through tears. Karina, are you going to leave me? She paused, looked at Oliver with sarcasm. I thought you knew your position now. These days she let Oliver be active on social media, just to make Howard jealous, to see if Howard would react as he did in the past. Howard suggesting divorce was something she expected. She let him blow off steam, but deep down, she knew she couldn't let go of Howard. Oliver, stop trying to fool me with your antics. These little games, if I'm willing to play along, I'll turn a blind eye no matter how bad your acting is. But if I'm not, your acting skills are useless. After that, she took a check out of her pocket and tossed it at Oliver. Oliver looked at Karina in shock. Karina, you? Cut the act. I knew about Howard finding you back then, so take the money and get lost. With a cold glance at Oliver, she turned and got into the car, leaving Oliver standing there stunned. She didn't want to play this game anymore. She loved Howard and didn't want to keep testing his love through these petty tactics. She felt Howard had changed. That lengthy exposé was actually released by Karina's mother. All this time, with social media buzzing, Karina's family didn't intervene, waiting to mock me before swooping in as saviors. It's truly laughable. I've made it known I'm preparing for divorce. Ever since Oliver returned, he's been sending me risque photos from a burner account, trying to mess with my head. Didn't expect those to become prime evidence for the upcoming divorce battle. Every bit of evidence came together, proving beyond a doubt he disrupted our relationship. Throughout the years, Oliver was always the third party. He knew about my engagement to Karina but kept interfering. Wanted to be the one shouting true love is innocent, breaking societal chains? I gave him a hand. I shared the latest updates, exposing everything between me, Oliver, and Karina in detail. In just 2 hours, public opinion flipped, reporters digging up cozy photos of Karina and Oliver during my marriage. Even hotel records, an unexpected bonus. Not long ago, Karina's company was skyrocketing. Now, thanks to this, it's plummeting, with many recently secured projects axed. I didn't expect Karina to seek me out so soon. The night's breeze was slightly cool, as she stood outside my countryside villa in her trench coat. I hadn't gone back since catching her with Oliver at the villa. "Howard, you?" She stared at my neck. There were some red marks on my exposed skin. I smirked, buttoning up my coat. "Why are you here?" "Why?" She looked at me bewildered. Grinning, I said, "I should ask you why. Why marry me if you didn't love me? Why do our years together pale in comparison to her and Oliver's short time?" "Howard, it's all baseless rumors on social media. My thing with Oliver is nonsense, the one I love." "Really?" I cut her off, meeting her eyes. Her features were delicate, and once her smile tugged at my heart. Yet now, even as Karina remained the same, that youthful affection had faded. "Karina, you were the one who proposed marriage to me. Our marriage was a joint decision. I don't quite get, why marry me if you didn't love me? You had options back then." "Who says I don't love you?" Karina immediately countered. She anxiously tried to grab my hand, but I stepped back. She said, "Howard, I'm sorry. It was my mistake, using Oliver to test your feelings for me. In my reckless youth, I fell for Oliver. But then I realized you're the one I truly love." I let out a small laugh at her confession. Not surprised, not disappointed. "But Karina, I don't love you anymore." In that moment, Karina stared at me, looking lost and pale as a ghost. "What did you say?" I said, "With every time you hurt me to test my love, I started letting you go. I admit I used to love you a lot. But now, I really don't love you anymore." I closed the door, and Karina was still standing outside, like she was in shock, crying and laughing. She kept asking why it ended this way when she tried so hard to get close to me. She always sought to confirm my love for her. Was that wrong? But she couldn't find an answer, and I couldn't provide one anymore. Maria pouted and clung to me, demanding kisses. She was assertive and bit down hard on my shoulder. The pain made me instinctively grip her waist. With teary eyes, she looked at me, upset. "You just said you loved Karina. I'm jealous. You've never said you love me. You just asked me to be your wife. What do you take me for?" I pressed my lips together. A little kitten. But instead of saying it, I kissed her. "Maria, I love you." Hearing that, Maria beamed with a grin she couldn't hide. Leading me back to the room, she showed off some toys, finally offering me a pink little whip. At the edge of the bed, she looked up sweetly. "You'll love me forever." I laughed. This little cat, so easy to please. Out of nowhere, the long silent system came online, catching sight of Maria tied up, shirtless, and screamed in my ear. The piercing noise filled my head. "You're pulling this behind my back?" I quietly set the whip down, but Maria still noticed the change. She looked at me with big eyes. Did I do something wrong? Disappointed? The system kept screeching. So I blocked it. Social media buzzed with a hot topic about Maria. She's not an illegitimate child. If anyone is, it's Karina. Back in the day, Karina's father built a business from scratch. Maria's mom was with him from having nothing to becoming a top earner. But once they got rich, Karina's dad's heart wandered. Turning her earnest love to waste, she became the other woman, hidden abroad for a whole decade. For Maria, she forcefully lived until 35, before it became unbearable and she took her own life. She couldn't grasp why Karina's dad changed his heart, why promises of forever turned ugly. She spent her life wondering, waiting for him to regret, to come back. But even after death, Karina's dad didn't visit once. The sad part? Karina's parents were never officially married. When the news hit, Karina lost it, drowning herself in alcohol, day and night. Her dad went nuts, leaving their company in shambles, cared for by no one. Maria took over Karina's company lightning fast. Surprisingly, my parents didn't object. The divorce case with Karina wrapped up. In court, she still clung to finding proof of our love, but in 5 years we saw little of each other, sometimes gone 3 months at a stretch. She always said she loved me, but I felt no love at all. She lost in the end. Outside the court, she desperately blocked me, her face exhausted, eyes bloodshot. "Howard, are we beyond repair?" I said nothing. She cried, tears streaming down her cheeks, sobbing. "I really didn't know we'd get to this point. I thought we'd be together forever, Howard." Karina thought love didn't need to be maintained, so she constantly tested it, believing my love wouldn't fade. How ridiculous. I was wrong, I really was wrong. She kept crying, eaten alive by regret like a monster. "Howard, give me another chance, please?" "No." Maria suddenly appeared behind me, softly holding my hand. She smiled at the wrecked Karina. "Sister, you're out of the game." Now, Karina had the stamp of an illegitimate child too. As Maria led me away, Karina covered her face, her shoulders shaking, tears slipping through her fingers. The fall from grace to mud, I think Karina understands it deeply now. I haven't seen Oliver since the auction. Not until my engagement party with Maria. His reputation ruined, he couldn't survive the showbiz, and without Karina as his backer, he became someone else's lover. When the wife found out, she threw acid on his face, disfiguring him. Now he lives with his tail between his legs. When Oliver saw me, his eyes were filled with hatred. But what's that to me? I still sit comfortably on my throne. Last night, Maria and I went to her secret place. She sat down on the chair, breathing heavily, her hands tied behind her back with a tie, and her face flushed oddly. "Tonight's gonna be special for my little kitten," I chuckled. Maria's eyes were moist, her voice hoarse. "Howard, don't." With the little gadget buzzing, her voice wavered at the end. I smiled, cupped her face, and planted a gentle kiss on the corner of her mouth. Just then, the system's mock-serious announcement echoed in my head. "Congrats. Main character, Maria's affection for you is through the roof. You can chill now. Stop it, if you keep going, Maria's gonna be overwhelmed." Karina saw Howard again at a business cocktail party. Maria wore a custom cheongsam, linked arms with Howard, mingling with the guests, chatting effortlessly. Howard introduced Maria to those in high society. She gave a bitter smile. She used to be the one standing next to Howard, the one who let him slip away. When Howard glanced back, their eyes accidentally met. Karina quickly looked away in panic. Now she's no longer the high-flying CEO, just the most inconspicuous server, scraping by on a meager salary. She had thought about making a comeback, only to find herself blacklisted across all industries. And some of the wealthy heirs she once offended pretended to help but instead dug pits for her to fall into. Her startup failed, drowning in debt. She's got nothing left, just her miserable life, struggling to survive.